It's 10 o'clock. The news now on BBC One with Dermot Murnahan and Louisa Preston.
Children for sale. The 10 o'clock news exposes a child trafficking gang operating within Europe. This 2-year-old girl was offered to our undercover team in Bulgaria for €60,000.
I want 20,000 up front of me to have to roll money here and there. At some stage I'm going to ask you more for another 20. In the end, another 20.
This was the moment the child was delivered for sale by her own father.
Cheers.
Tonight, the man behind the deal and 2 others have been detained by police. We have an exclusive report on this shocking trade. Also tonight, the scene of a floods tragedy. A father and son die attempting to save their rugby club. Comic actor Chris Langham breaks down in court, telling the jury he was abused as a child. And the battle to save Shambo, the sacred bullock, is over as he's finally led away for slaughter.
In BBC London News, as Kyan Prince's killer is jailed for life, another teenager dies on the capital streets, and serious questions are raised about the security for the 2012 Olympics.
Good evening. A 10 o'clock news investigation has exposed a gang offering children for sale within the European Union. Children, including this 2-year-old girl, are being sold for up to €60,000. That's about £40,000. Organised criminals offered a number of toddlers to our undercover team and boasted about the routes they could use to smuggle them into the UK. And in one case, a man attempted to sell his grandchild to the team without the mother's knowledge. Tonight, following our investigation, 3 men have been detained, including the man who offered the children. We sent our undercover team to Bulgaria to investigate the gang, which operates out of the holiday resort of Varna. Our correspondent Sangita Myska has this exclusive report.
These are the children being sold by criminal gangs in Europe. The gangs don't know or care where they end up. This is the man who sells them.
Like that. And pull the trigger. Pull the trigger. Right.
He's called Harry, and in an undercover investigation, BBC News has sought to expose him as one of the dozens of criminals making money from selling children. Welcome to the holiday town of Varna in Bulgaria. Thousands of British families head to these beaches every year. But Varna also attracts another class of visitor, Bulgaria's criminal gangs, looking to mix business with pleasure.
You okay?
One of those gang members is a man known locally as Harry. A convicted people trafficker, we'd heard he was still operating in Varna. Using an undercover team, we decided to see what he was up to. The first step was to find his preferred place of business. It turned out to be this rather unlikely petrol station. Now, this might look like an odd place to do business, but actually it's pretty smart. Because there are so many cars coming in and out, it means that if Harry is nervous about new clients, he can drive them outside Varna. He'll switch cars 2 or 3 times to check that he's not being tailed. It was on one such drive that we got a taste of Harry's lucrative trade in people. Along this stretch of road, he pointed out the prostitutes he'd put to work, bragging that he routinely trafficked women across Europe. Chillingly, children were now part of his portfolio. He said he'd successfully smuggled them into 2 countries.
Has anybody else had any problems when they've done it?
No.
Okay. No problem.
Everybody's been gone.
Yes.
Okay.
But nobody.
But to England, has anybody taken anything to England?
No. Germany, no.
Germany, no way.
Yeah.
With Harry boasting about trafficking women and selling children, it was time to put him to the test. Our sting was simple. We told Harry that one of our undercover team wanted to buy a child. The reason was that his attempt to adopt in the UK had been thwarted because of his criminal record. Official figures suggest that worldwide most children are smuggled for the sex trade or domestic slavery. We wanted to test whether Harry would check our story. We arranged to meet and secretly record Harry at this upmarket hotel. The lure of a big money deal was enough to tempt him.
Hey, glad you could make it out.
At 10 p.m. sharp, he arrived. Harry asked no questions about his new client's criminal record. Instead, he wanted to know what we could pay for a child.
And what about money?
Money. I want 20,000 up front. Me to have to roll money here and there. At some stage, I'm going to ask you more for another 20. In the end, another 20 to finish.
Harry had just set a price, 50 to 60,000 euros all up. The deal included getting the child out of Bulgaria with false adoption papers. He then revealed how to smuggle the child into the UK. He recommended going overland to avoid checks and explained various tried and tested trafficking routes. Harry ended by specifying his personal favourite, via France and Ireland.
I never use this road. I always use Cherbourg and Rosley. Always. Cherbourg and Rosley. France. Yeah. Always.
We now had our first insight into how his criminal operation worked. We arranged to meet the next day, when he'd specify which children were for sale. At 11 p.m. the next night, Harry returned to the hotel. Again, he did nothing to verify who we were or what would happen to the child. He wanted to get on with business. He showed us photographs of 2 children.
It's 1.5-year-old.
1.5-year-old. And where is she?
Poor family. It's not far from Ireland. 15
What do you think?
Oh, she's beautiful.
Healthy girl, nice girl.
This little girl, he said, was from a poor family. He then showed us a photograph of another child, the daughter of a Bulgarian single mother.
Yeah. And what about her parents?
Bulgarians.
Bulgarian people.
Mother Bulgarian.
What do you think? Do you think she'll like that one?
Single mother.
Single mother.
As the night wore on, Harry put one last offer on the table.
If necessary, I can organize me and the parents, just the mother and father. We go to England.
And how much extra is that?
I don't know. I don't want to know.
For a bit more money, Harry was prepared to smuggle the children into the UK himself.
Now, it's taken Harry about 2 weeks to get back to us. We've now returned here to central Varna. He says there are around 4 children that we could see, and he's always been very careful not to give away their exact location. What we do think is that they are somewhere in the surrounding area.
Over the next 36 hours, Harry repeatedly changed venues for planned meets, ensuring that we couldn't locate the children. Instead, he brought them to us. The first viewing at a cafe was of a toddler called Fatia. She came to meet us with her mother and a man who claimed to be the child's father. Fatia's mother told us she was too poor to properly care for her. Our next meetings, opposite a courthouse, involved a man who wanted to sell his granddaughter. He showed us a photo of a girl just 20 months old. The deal was to be kept secret from the toddler's mother. Finally, we met little Nazar. Her father said he had 7 other children to feed and needed the money. He was keen to get a decision. It was clear Harry had a number of children ready to be sold to the highest bidder. At this point, we closed the investigation. For it to continue, money would have had to change hands, and we wanted to warn the authorities about the risk to the children. In large part, it's enclaves of crushing poverty in Bulgaria that make fertile pickings for Harry. Experts say unless action is taken quickly, vulnerable children will continue to be sold into domestic slavery, the sex trade, or for illegal adoption.
What we've seen in this investigation is deeply disturbing. But the fact is, this is the economics of poverty in Bulgaria, in which people are the commodities and serious organised criminals make the profits.
Since filming this report, we've handed our evidence over to the police and child welfare agencies in Bulgaria. We're now awaiting the results of their investigation.
Well, Sangita is back from Bulgaria and joins me in the studio now. Sangita, all very, very disturbing. What is the latest from Bulgaria?
Now, Dermot, as I said in my report, all of our evidence has now been handed over to the Bulgarian authorities, and tonight the Bulgarian police have told us that they have detained 3 men. One of them, this man, Harry. You saw him in the film, the man selling those children. Of course, of paramount importance is the safety of those little girls. Again, the last time we saw them, as you saw in the report, they were safely with their families. Again, we gave our evidence to the welfare authorities in Bulgaria, and tonight they've told us they too have launched their own investigation.
And Sangita, have we any idea how widespread this trade may be?
Look, these figures are really hard to pin down. Obviously, this is a criminal activity and therefore, by its very nature, covert, but there are some estimated figures. For example, UNICEF say that worldwide, up to 1.2 million children per year are trafficked or smuggled worldwide. Home Office figures have gone on quite recently to suggest that up to 330 cases of child trafficking exist in the UK between 2005 and 2006. And if you just look at those figures, it's quite clear that this is not a problem that's confined to Bulgaria, but something that the international authorities need to take seriously.
OK, Sangita, thank you very much. Well, now turning to today's other news, and 2 men died as they tried